In life, you have to stand up for what you want. Nobody cares about your needs. Even my own parents, when I've worked 24, 36-hour shifts, they don't really care. And people care to some degree, but when you're going through hell, people don't realize how bad it is. They haven't walked a mile in your shoe, like the old saying. You really don't know how it is to be someone till you do it. And I have the tendency to not complain and not to stand up for my needs with people. And for years, that was a character flaw for me. But it's funny now, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've kind of become the opposite of that. I stand up for my needs and not in a mean way, just in a direct way. This is what I need. And I'll explain the rationale briefly of what you are doing is causing me harm and it can't continue. And I've done this at work recently. I've done this with my ex-wife today. I've done this with lots of people in my life for the last 2 or 3 years. And most people don't take it well, I've found. I find people are used to the version of you that is of the past. And when you make a drastic change, people can't accept it. I find this especially at work when someone's been above you in the hierarchy and you've been putting up with their abuse, and then you finally say something. And that happened to me where I'm just like, yeah, if you don't like it, I can quit right now. It's fine. I had that conversation with my management team. And then all of a sudden, there's all this backpedaling because they didn't realize you're on the edge. And that's what was even said. Oh, we didn't like, have we had this discussion before? And the kind of the same happened right now with my ex-wife, where it's like, at a certain point, things come to a head and something that's going on I don't like, and I'm state that I don't like it, then the gaslighting begins. And people just naturally do this to you, I think, because if it's something they want and you don't want, then there's a conflict. And so, of course, they choose themselves. But the thing is, for me, I'm not willing to be homeless or to be, abused, whether physically, emotionally, or financially anymore. Many years I put peace over everything else. I just didn't want arguments with you. I wanted a calm life. But what I realized that a certain level of conflict, a certain level of war is needed to protect yourself. Especially for me now, like a lot of people lately have been coming for my livelihood, where it's like, just do X regardless of what outcome that has for you. And lately it's been a lot of like, just do X so that so I'm happy, but your life is completely ruined. And even with my clients at work, I've had to have those conversations of like, hey, I need this amount of sleep. I know this project is due tomorrow, but it's too late. I'm going to bed. And in my personal life, people want me to make decisions that can negatively financially affect me to the point I might be homeless. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that because all this risk is being assumed and I'm the only one that carries it. I'm the one having to have those conversations. It's kind of like in my apartment, we don't allow smoking in my complex. I'm in California, and there's some guy smoking something in his unit, and we all got notices like, you can get kicked out of this unit, out of the community if you smoke inside. I don't smoke inside anyway, but it's like that idea. If like someone came over and they're like, let me smoke inside your apartment, I shouldn't have to explain that policy. Me saying you cannot smoke inside this apartment should be enough. And I kind of find people often that is not enough. They need to hear a reason. And, I find usually it's good to give a reason, a little bit of the why, so they're not seeing it some arbitrary boundary. But I find that there's too much explanation goes through. So I kind of like to keep it one sentence. Like, I want to smoke in here. You can't because I'll get kicked out. And then if they keep pushing it, like, okay, dude, you gotta leave my apartment. It people are, it's the same thing in my car when people try not to wear a seatbelt. I've had those arguments with people like, hey man, I know you don't normally wear a seatbelt. You can do that in your car, but if I'm driving, you're wearing a seatbelt. or else you don't have to ride in my car. You have to kind of stand your base with people. And especially people I kind of find when they're used to that peaceful you, they're not used to that thud, that kind of country yokel in his overalls saying, like, don't tread on me. I kind of find you have to find a level of being friendly about it and not mean. Because sometimes I feel like we all overreact and you become mean to defend your boundaries. You kind of push too far. Now you talk in a mean tone or you overdo it so the other person has a leg to stand on to attack you over your boundary. The friendly FUD idea for me and my brother had worked on that for years where it's like because he was an electrician, so he had to kind of deal with these people that would try to bully you. And in life, especially as a man, if men and women will take you as weak if you don't stand up for what you want. And I find, especially as men, often where you're constantly in conflict with things in life. So you're trying to just like let certain things slide. Now I pretty much don't let anything slide that affects me negatively. If someone cuts me off in traffic, okay, if it's not like, it's not affecting me on a day-to-day basis. But if you're affecting my life on a day-to-day basis, work, ex-wife, you know, apartment complex, something where you can keep affecting me and it's causing me an issue, I have to confront it. And I'm not going to stand by it. And I'll even create a war conflict with you over if I have to. Right. It's kind of like someone entering your personal space. I remember a guy like ran up on me and my ex-wife, she we were girlfriend, boyfriend at the time. And like he got in my personal space and I whipped out a knife. It was that simple. There was no negotiating with you. You've entered like a punching distance. Now it's to the death because now you've threatened my life. My head can hit the ground and break it. You punch me, I get knocked out. My head slams against the pavement. I'm dead. Right. I'm not sitting there having a negotiation with you over my boundaries. You've broken the boundary. There's no time for a talk now, right? Obviously, most situations aren't like that dire, but there's an element of truth to that situation. When someone is affecting you, you have to take immediate action because it's the action is going to continue and it can get worse. And kind of the Alan Watts thing of you're no under no agreement to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. And a lot of times people are like, you're mean now, or I don't like this new attitude, or this and that with me. And my brother's dealt with that as well. Where it's like all of a sudden people view you as you have an attitude, or you're too harsh, or you're too direct. I'm a nice guy still, but now I have an edge. I'm a little mean when you push me too far. I kind of have I have that Irish fighting spirit beneath that I've let out where it's like, you don't get to bully me. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the president of this country. I'm not going to bend the knee to anyone. I didn't get a shot during COVID, for example. If I don't believe in something, you don't tell me what to do. Right. And so I don't care if I'm homeless to a certain degree, if I have to stand on my principles. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to live my life on my knees. I'd rather die on my feet. And with spirituality, I kind of feel like there's a lot of softness where people are too passive and you allow too much. Like good men let the bad stuff happen. You kind of have to stand up and you have to be willing to risk something. And I'm willing to upset a lot of people to make myself happy because it's like for many years it was the other way. I did everything to make everyone around me happy. Everyone's happy but me. But now it's like I don't ask for much. I just ask for some basic decency, not to be stolen from, not to be physically attacked, not to be treated abusive verbally. So if someone has a problem with that, then they have a problem with that and we can fight about it. Like I'm not gonna bend the knee just because I want peace. I want everyone to be happy. I'm gonna say the emperor has no clothes when necessary, especially at work with my clients. I'm gonna tell them when it's a dumb idea, and I'm gonna say the same too. I'm not gonna bite my tongue, whether it's my personal life. If someone is asking me to do something I don't agree with, if the answer is no, and if they want a reason, maybe I'll give them, maybe I won't. Most people aren't deserving of a reason. I think the old saying is, unless it's your wife, your boss, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you don't owe an explanation. And I kind of view it like that in life. I don't explain myself anymore to anyone except those kind of people, because they don't deserve it. You know, and I feel like if you have, like, if you're like me, divorced with an ex-wife, you still owe some explanation if you have kids with that person. If you don't have kids, then there's no connection anymore. But if you do owe an explanation to those people, because you, with your family, you kind of, this is a unit that it matters for you. Your doctor needs to know what's wrong to diagnose you. Same with a lawyer. Lawyer can't protect you if you're lying. And your boss too. It's your livelihood. If you get caught in a lie to your boss, they might just get rid of you because they can't trust you. So there's kind of, those are the only people really worthy of the full truth. Most people are just worthy of the yes or the no. They don't need an explanation. They don't need to see the logic behind your decision. And I've talked enough for a lifetime, so I don't like explaining myself anymore, anyways. For me, I kind of have an attitude now. Say what you say, I say what I say, and if nothing can be done, then nothing can be done. We don't have to talk anymore. I always tell people now, whether work or personal life, we say what we're going to say. And then if we reach an impasse, I tell them, like, no need to talk. We'll talk once this action's taken. Because until there's an action for me that gives both people on an equal playing field, there's no point to continue talking. If someone has power over you and they're not willing to make a change, or vice versa, you're unwilling to compromise, until a compromise can be made, until the leverage can be removed and you're both on an equal playing field, there's no point to continue the conversation. I find a lot of talk is just filibustering to wear you down. And so I kind of have an attitude of, like, unless it's a productive conversation, then there's no point to talk. You might as well just save your strength, because save it for the next war with the next person where something can be accomplished. Because if it's just going to be a bunch of back and forth and the same conversations are circular, just a circular argument, it's a waste of both of your time. If nothing is going to actually change, if both people are unwilling to change their positions, no point to talk. Wait till one person needs a change, that there's enough leverage on your side that the change can be made. Because that's kind of my attitude. If it's an impasse, it's an impasse. There's no point to waste any more words on it. At the end of the day, you still have to have the friendliness with it. You can't be mean about your boundaries. I kind of feel like if someone's doing an ad hominem attack in these talks, I try to ignore it and just focus on what my needs are. There's no point of mudslinging at each other. Even if they do it to you, be friendly, get your point across, say what you want, and if they're unwilling to change, you just remove them from your life. You just, and if you can't remove them from your life, you gray rock them, you stone face them. If they're, at work, that's what you do. If you can't get rid of that boss, obviously you talk to them as little as humanly possible. You keep all communication as short as possible. You keep all communication on text or email. You keep a digital record of all conversations. That's how you get around people you can't remove. You gray rock and you document. So it's kind of like, personal life, you don't have to do so much of that necessarily, but in the work world, that's when people will always say, well, how do I deal with this? That's all you can do. Just keep communication as low as possible and leave. You can't, if you try to be a friendly FUD and you can't accomplish your goals. Like at my job, I've accomplished some things I've wanted. I've got a little bit more of the hours I want. I've gotten a little more of the respect I've wanted. The boss that was a terrorist finally stepped down. So I have like more negotiating power with management when there's a problem. So I'm willing to stay, but that doesn't mean I'm not unwilling to quit with no job lined up either. I feel like a lot of people are too scared to leave when they're being disrespected. I've quit two jobs in my 20 years on the spot, given my 2 weeks notice without a job lined up, because there's a certain level of disrespect I'm not going to take. You cross that line. And I'm like that in my personal life now too. There's a certain, there's a certain level of like disrespect that can't be coming back from. If someone's purposely trying to trigger me, if someone keeps throwing ad hominem attacks at me constantly, it's like, all right, I don't need you in my life, especially on the spiritual path. I don't need speed bumps unnecessarily. If I'm not karmically tied to you, why am I talking to you? Giving up poker has helped me a lot with that too. There's all these groups of people that are kind of friendly acquaintances that can cause a problem in my life, that they're not, it's not even something important. Why am I hanging around you people? You're not going to be there when my rent is due or there's a problem I need help. So I kind of view the only people worthy to be in your life are loved ones that you care about, or maybe someone you're karmically tied to. They've done you a favor, maybe you owe them a favor, kind of thing. But I kind of try to stay away from people because everyone has an agenda and they're trying to get over on you a lot of times. I don't have that agenda. I'm just trying to not be abused by people. And so for me, it's like a lot of times people's agenda is a natural level of abuse, and it can be very annoying dealing with people. So now I kind of keep my circle small because I don't want to give you the opportunity to get close and cause a problem. You have to kind of earn your way in from the outside because it's like I'm a very nice and giving person, and I have that tendency to be too trusting early on. So now I have a long vetting process. I kind of give people a year or two. You have to see what your true intentions are and if you actually care about me at all before I kind of invest in that friendship or or relationship for that matter. Like usually people have some hidden agenda, I find, or it's an agenda about they're just kind of narcissistic and it's all about them. So kind of feel like the friendly FUD will drive away people that just want something from you, as well as people that have negative intentions for you and trying to get close, or just people that are just time wasters or money wasters. They're just going to waste a bunch of your time and accomplish nothing for you.